What if? Two simple words. Two words that have started businesses, ended dreams, created inventions, destroyed opportunities, and changed entire lives. Every major decision you've ever made was followed by those two words. What if? And whether you realize it or not, those words are shaping your life right now. Most people think fear is what stops them, but fear isn't usually the problem. The real problem is the story we attach to fear. Because when most people ask, what if? They immediately go to the worst possible outcome. What if I fail? What if they laugh at me? What if I start and nobody supports me? What if I quit my job and it doesn't work out? What if I try my hardest and still lose? So they wait. They wait for more confidence, more certainty, more guarantees, more signs, more perfect timing. But life rarely gives any of those things. And while they're waiting, something interesting happens. Time keeps moving. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. And eventually, they find themselves standing in the exact same place they were years ago. Still wondering, still waiting, still asking the same question. What if? The strange thing is that nobody questions the negative possibilities. People believe failure before it even happens. They rehearse disasters that don't exist. They create entire movies in their minds about things going wrong. But they almost never ask the opposite question. What if it works? What if the opportunity you're afraid to take becomes the turning point of your life? What if the conversation you're avoiding leads to a breakthrough? What if the business succeeds? What if the application gets accepted? What if the video reaches millions? What if the person you want to become is waiting on the other side of one uncomfortable decision? Nobody knows. And that's exactly the point. The future is unwritten. Think about it. Every successful person you've ever admired stepped into uncertainty. They didn't know the outcome. They weren't guaranteed success. They didn't have a map. They had doubts. They had fears. They had reasons to quit. But they moved anyway. Because courage was never about knowing what would happen. Courage is moving when you don't. Some of the biggest regrets people carry aren't failures. They're missed opportunities. The business they never started. The words they never said. The dream they never pursued. The chance they never took. Years later, failure hurts less than wondering. Failure teaches. Failure strengthens. Failure gives answers. But regret? Regret leaves questions. Questions that echo for decades. What if I had tried? What if I had believed in myself? What if I hadn't been so afraid? What if? The truth is, there are two versions of what if. One comes from fear. The other comes from possibility. One keeps you trapped. The other pushes you forward. One says, what if I fail? The other asks, what if I succeed? One focuses on what you could lose. The other focuses on what you could become. And every morning, every decision, every opportunity presents those two versions to you. The choice is yours. You don't need all the answers. You don't need certainty. You don't need guarantees. Nobody gets those. You only need enough courage to take the next step. One step, then another, and another. Because confidence isn't something you find before you start. Confidence is something you build after you begin. So the next time fear asks you, what if it doesn't work? Ask fear a question in return. What if it does? Because one day you'll look back on this moment, and you'll either be grateful that you took the chance, or you'll still be wondering what could have happened. The question was never what if. The real question is, which version of what if are you willing to live with?